This is macOS Ken.
The Expanded Protections Collision course, the bevy of betas goes public, and a bit of sound and vision news. It is Thursday, the 19th of August, 2021. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 20% off your system plus your first month free when you sign up for interactive monitoring service at simplisafecom/macOSCan. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCan. 2 weeks later, the Expanded Protections for Children story is not going anywhere. Quick reminder, the protections are meant to fight child exploitation a few ways: warning kids or kids and parents about potentially explicit images being sent from or received in a kid's messages account, checking photos in iCloud for child sexual abuse material or CSAM without violating user privacy, as Apple sees it, and finally updates to Siri and Search that'll give parents and kids expanded information and help if they encounter unsafe situations. The one in the middle relies on something called neural hash. Put very simply, before an image goes from a device to iCloud, it's converted on device to a string of letters and numbers, or a hash. That hash is compared to known CSAM hashes. If there is no match, Apple says the device creates a cryptographic safety voucher that encodes the match result along with additional encrypted data about the image. This voucher is uploaded to iCloud Photos along with the image. But what if there is a collision? Also, what do we mean by collision? According to a piece from The Verge, a collision in this context is when two different images produce the same hash. Kind of worrying because a GitHub user has been able to make that happen. Kind of. The user posted code for a reconstructed Python version of neural hash, which he claimed to have reverse engineered from previous versions of iOS, and that may make the difference. Certainly Apple would like folks to think so. In a call with reporters regarding the new findings, The Verge says Apple said its CSAM scanning system had been built with collision in mind, given the known limitations of perceptual hashing algorithms. In particular, the company emphasized a secondary server-side hashing algorithm separate from neural hash, the specifics of which are not public. If an image that produced a neural hash collision were flagged by the system, it would be checked against the secondary system and identified as an error before reaching human moderators. Apple also says that doing this in theory is easier than exploiting collisions in practice. Quoting The Verge again, generally, collision attacks allow researchers to find identical inputs that produce the same hash. In Apple's system, this would mean generating an image that sets off the CSAM alerts, even though it is not a CSAM image, since it produces the same hash as an image in the database. But here's the thing. To actually generate an alert, one would have to know the hashes in the database held by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the list against which on-device hashes are matched or hopefully not matched. Then you'd have to do it enough times to trip Apple's alert system, and then you get to the human checks. All of that said, collisions don't seem to be that big a concern. But concerns that were out there before are still out there, and concerned parties are making their voices heard. Last week, we heard about an open letter calling on Apple to abandon its expanded protections plans. The letter's authors express no love for child exploitation. Rather, they're concerned that the technologies Apple plans to use could invade the privacy of everyday users and could eventually be used to scan for data outside the child protection realm. Over 8,400 people have signed that letter at this point, but there's always room for more virtual signatures. To that end, news this week of two petitions against Apple's plans, one from Fight for the Future and another from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. The Mac Observer highlights the petition from the Future. urging Apple to abandon its proposed child protection update to iOS 15 immediately. The petition says in part, Apple is endangering children in abusive households by threatening to reveal sensitive information about a child or their friends to abusers, while simultaneously opening up a door for hackers and authoritarian governments to abuse us all. Taking away the privacy and security of billions is not the way to combat child exploitation. Apple must immediately reverse course by dropping its plans and recommitting to never opening any sort of backdoor to monitor our communications. Meanwhile, the EFF petition argues, mass surveillance is not an acceptable crime-fighting strategy, no matter how well-intentioned the spying. If you're upset about Apple's recent announcement that the next version of iOS will install surveillance software in every iPhone, we need you to speak out about it. So says the EFF. Betas released to developers earlier in the week are out to the public testing crowd. Mac Rumors ran a piece early in the day on Wednesday saying that the sixth betas of iOS 15 and iPadOS 15 had been released to Apple's public beta testing program. Then, a few hours later, iMore ran a couple of reports, one saying that the sixth beta of tvOS 15 was out to public testers, and another saying the same for the sixth beta of watchOS 8. If you're in the public beta program, you already know how to get the virtual goods. If you're not, but want to be, a world of potentially glitchy wonder awaits at beta.apple.com. If you're looking for an M1 Mac at a lower price, you may want to point and click your way to Apple's Refurbished Store. Mac Rumors says the company has started selling refurbed 24-inch M1 iMacs in the UK and the US. There are a few colors and configurations available. They run from an 8-core CPU, 7-core GPU with a 256GB solid-state drive for $1,099, all the way up to an 8-core CPU, an 8-core GPU, 1TB solid-state drive with gigabit Ethernet for $1,799. Those represent savings between $200 and $320, according to the report. As with the rest of Apple's refurbs, Mac Rumor says the M1 iMacs are sold with the same 1-year warranty offered with a new iMac, plus they come with all the manuals and accessories. Apple Care Plus is also available. You can find out more by going to apple.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, look for the words refurbished and clearance, and see what's in stock. More news in a moment, but first a word from SimpliSafe. Whole home protection. Break-ins, fires, medical emergencies, flood. SimpliSafe has hardware for all of it. But you probably don't need hardware for all of it. That's why SimpliSafe lets you pick and choose. Build the system that's right for you. Just takes a couple of minutes to customize your solution at simplisafe.com/macOSken. Setting up my base station, sensors, and keypad took no time. But hardware is only part of it. Once that's in, SimpliSafe has dedicated teams, trained and ready to handle whatever issue happens to arise. There's always somebody there who has your back to keep you safe and make sure you feel safe. Safety and simplicity, that is SimpliSafe. As my listener, you can save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system and get your first month free when you sign up for interactive monitoring service. Just visit simplisafe.com/macOSken to customize your system and start protecting your home and family. SIMPLI, that's simplisafe.com/macOSken. Kanye West is holding yet another listening party for his theoretically upcoming album, Donda. Mac Rumors says this third event will be held at Soldier Field in Chicago next Thursday, the 26th of August. I say theoretically upcoming album because there is still no release date for it. Expectations were that it would be released after the last listening party on the 5th of August. Didn't happen. Crazy as this whole thing sounds, West does seem to be working and reworking the work. Mac Rumor says so far, West has played dramatically different versions of the album at each event, featuring new songs and new mixes. While it doesn't sound like Apple has said it'll be part of next week's event, it seems likely that it will, and certainly it would want to be. According to the report, the initial listening party ended up breaking Apple Music live streaming records with 3.3 million viewers tuning in. Even more Apple Music listeners participated in the second streaming event. Spatial audio support is not coming to Netflix. That's because it's already there. 9 to 5 Mac ran a piece Wednesday saying that the surround sound-like experience has made its way to the streaming juggernaut ahead of support for Apple TV. A piece I saw from Cult of Mac says spatial audio won't hit Apple's set-side box until this fall's release of tvOS 15. In the meantime, if you've got the latest Netflix app on your iPhone or iPad and a pair of AirPods Pro or AirPods Max, you might have the feature. If you don't yet see spatial audio in the Netflix app, the piece says, make sure you have the latest version from the App Store and continue checking over the coming weeks. The company says this will be a slow rollout. And finally today, another big name is joining the dystopian future on Apple TV+. Deadline says Oscar winner Tim Robbins is set to join Rebecca Ferguson in the Cupertino streamer's adaptation of Hugh Howey's trilogy, Wool. According to the report, Wool is set in a ruined and toxic future where a community exists in a giant silo underground, hundreds of stories deep. There, men and women live in a society full of regulations they believe are meant to protect them. I will say, I love Tim Robbins. Somebody tell me how he does. Hey, before we part ways, I want to let you know about a live show happening tonight. My friend and friend of the show, Rick Smolan, has started a show on Clubhouse called Exposed. Rick is a world-famous photographer, and he's been bringing other world-famous photographers to Clubhouse to talk about their work. This evening, at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, Dina Litovsky joins Rick. From young women in New York City's meatpacking district to a small town in Florida that's become the Amish Las Vegas, she shot for National Geographic, The New York Times, The New Yorker, and many, many more. Hear Dina Litovsky talk with Rick Smolan about her work on Exposed. That's later today at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, on Clubhouse. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 20% off your system plus your first month free when you sign up for interactive monitoring service at simplysafe.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.